You settle in for the night, the room quiet around you, the world hushed and folded into shadows. Maybe you're in your bed, blanket drawn to your chin, the hush of distant traffic outside. Or perhaps you're letting gentle chores drift you towards sleep. The light is soft, the air cool, and your mind, restless or weary, is seeking a gentler story, one that will ask nothing of you but to listen and wonder. Tonight we drift back, far, far back, into a world colder and older than memory. Outside your window, night might be simple darkness, but out there, in the deep Pleistocene, darkness is alive. Snow falls in silence, piling against the bones of mammoth and mastodon. Firelight flickers in small stubborn camps scattered across the endless steppe, tiny islands of warmth in an ocean of night. The air is sharp with cold, the sky full of uncounted stars. The only promise is that the dawn will be distant, and until then, survival will be measured by the glow of your fire and the closeness of your companions, human and otherwise. Let yourself rest. You don't need to stay awake for every detail. Let the story carry you, and if sleep claims you before the journey's end, know that the past will be here when you return. The wolves will keep watch for both of us. What does it mean, you might wonder, to share the darkness with something wild? When does fear become trust? When does hunger become kinship? And if you find yourself drifting, don't worry. No one expects you to master Pleistocene firemaking before morning. The worst you might do is snore too loud for the wolves. If quiet history like this helps you rest or wander, consider subscribing. It lets this small corner of calm keep growing. And if you're still awake, share your time and place below. I'd love to know who's listening tonight. Now breathe out. Let your eyes grow heavy and settle into the snow-lit dark, where a wolf's eyes catch the firelight and the story begins. The cold creeps into your bones, but the fire pushes it back, flicker by flicker. You are not alone. Around you, people huddle in silence, wrapped in furs, backs to the wind, eyes to the shadows. Every breath plumes white in the air, every movement slow and careful. The land is not gentle. It never is. Not here. But for a little while, you are safe, warmed by the fire, the press of your kin, and the small, bright hope that tonight nothing will break the circle. Somewhere at the edge of the light, there is movement. Soft, deliberate, unhurried. Not human, but not unfamiliar. You hear it first, the padded step, the faintest click of claw on ice. Then you see them, shapes, lower than a crouched child. Noses close to the ground, eyes reflecting amber and green. Wolves, you are used to them in a way, just as they are used to you. For countless seasons, they have haunted the edges of your world, hunting the same herds, following the same old trails, appearing as shadow and silence wherever there is blood and bone, and the hope of warmth. Tonight, the snow is deep, the wind biting, the sky clear and pitiless. The fire is everything. You and your band have gathered what you could, wood from far-off thickets, scraps of grass and dry dung, a pile of bones from the latest hunt, mammoth ribs, horse leg, reindeer hide, food, fuel and future, all in one small circle. The wolves gather, careful and hungry, just beyond the reach of flame. You can hear their breath when the wind changes, can almost smell the wild animal musk beneath the tang of wood smoke and singed fur. For a long while, nothing happens. You do not move. They do not move. Only the fire moves, shadows chasing each other, leaping against the pale crust of snow, dancing over the hollows where you sleep. You remember the stories, always told in whispers, always at night, of wolves circling camps, of eyes in the dark, of nights when hunger pressed so close that every sound made your heart race. Wolves are not friends, not yet. They are competitors, sometimes rivals, sometimes thieves, but they are also teachers. You have watched them hunt, have seen the way they move through snow, the patience of their waiting, the sudden, coordinated burst when a herd panics and scatters. You have admired their tenacity, even as you have cursed their raids on your scraps, their cleverness in stealing what is not theirs. Tonight, there is a kind of truce. The cold is too deep, the wind too fierce. The wolves linger, not attacking, not slinking away, just watching. You watch them back. Some in your band mutter quietly, drawing children close, tossing another bone toward the edge of the circle, out of habit, out of caution, perhaps even out of pity. The wolves approach, cautious, eyes bright, and snatch the bone, then leap back, melting into the dark. It is not the first time. Each night, they come a little closer. Each night, you leave a little more behind. The fires burn a little brighter. The nights seem a little less alone. In the silence, you realize you are learning each other. Watching, waiting, measuring the gap between fear and hope. The wolves do not rush. They do not threaten. They accept what is given. And sometimes when the fire burns low, they even settle nearby, curling into tight balls, noses tucked to tails, sharing the warmth, sharing the night. You drift into sleep, listening to the sound of their breathing, so like your own, so steady and slow. In your dreams, the lines blur. You run with them through the snow, your breath rising as theirs does, your feet light and sure, your hunger sharp and clean. You are not quite wolf, not quite human, but something in between, a creature of winter and fire, of hope and hunger, of the first faint stirrings of trust. When you wake, the wolves are gone. The sun is a pale stripe on the horizon, the snow around the camp trampled with paw prints. The bones you left are picked clean. The fire is ash, and your band is already stirring, already gathering what they need to survive another day. You remember the night, the eyes in the darkness, the quiet companionship that was neither friendship nor rivalry, just a pause in the long shared history of winter. As the day goes on, you see the wolves at a distance, following the herds, shadowing your own movements. Sometimes you find their tracks alongside your own. Sometimes, when you are lucky, you catch sight of a pup, half-grown and bold, watching you from behind a drift, curious but unafraid. The elders say that the world is full of watchers, that all creatures are learning from one another, that wisdom is not the property of one kind alone. You believe it. In the long cold, with the sun low and the world sleeping beneath ice and snow, the difference between friend and foe, between stranger and kin, is sometimes just a matter of time and patience. At night, you return to your fire, the band smaller than the herds, smaller than the pack, but bound by a shared story of endurance. You see the wolves again, waiting at the edge, and this time, when you toss them a bone, you do not look away. You meet their eyes, and see in them something old and wild, and familiar, a hunger, yes, but also a hope, a question, waiting for an answer. You settle in, the world quiet around you, and listen to the breathing of your people, to the crackle of the fire, to the hush of snow falling softly into night. Somewhere at the edge of the world, a wolf lifts its head and sings, a long, low sound, mournful and beautiful, rising to the stars. You close your eyes, the sound curling around you, and feel the first fragile thread of a bond that will stretch across millennia, across all the winters to come. For tonight, there is peace, human and wolf, camp and wild, fire and shadow, each holding the other in the slow, patient embrace of survival. And so the story begins. You wake to the sound of breath in the darkness, not just the soft huff and sigh of your own, not just the stirring of kin beside you, but a hush that belongs to something older, something wild. Dawn is distant still, only a blue promise behind black trees, and the fire has ebbed to a single line of embers, pulsing red and slow. The air is cold, curling against your cheeks and hands, sharpening your senses as you shift your head from the warmth of a fur bundle. Beyond the fire circle, snow glows faintly, catching starlight in tiny mirrors. The world is open, quiet, endless, and yet you sense, somewhere just beyond the edge of vision, a presence that matches your own alertness, a watcher whose patience is measured in lifetimes. You remember, from yesterday, the chase, hours spent trailing the shadow of a herd, your people walking in a long, cautious line. The world is movement here, herds of horse, reindeer, bison, mammoth drifting across the steppe, each animal a story of hunger and caution. The wolves move as you do, tracing the herd's path, reading the signs, vanishing and reappearing as the land demands. Sometimes, when you crest a rise, you see them, grey shadows, slipping through knee-high grass, noses to the ground, ears flickering at every sound. You pause, and for a heartbeat, your eyes meet. In that glance, you sense recognition, Not just the simple fact of another living thing, but a shared purpose, a silent kinship, born from years of following the same slow tides of hunger and hope. Hunting here is not a solitary task. It is a slow dance, each step planned, each moment balanced between caution and need. You wait for hours, watching the herd as the wolves watch you, everyone trying to guess who will move first. Sometimes the animals startle a sudden movement, a gust of wind, the pressure of too many eyes. They thunder away, their panic drawing wolves and humans alike into a wild, ragged chase. You run, feet pounding over frozen ground, lungs burning, eyes fixed on the swirl of fur and muscle ahead. The wolves scatter, working together to split the herd, testing for weakness. You are slower, heavier, but your mind sharpens with desperation. Remembering every old lesson, drive the animals toward the water, toward the brush, toward the place where the earth dips and the snow is deep. The chase is exhausting. Sometimes you fail, most times in fact. The herds are strong, fast, wild, as wind. The wolves melt away, regrouping, licking their wounds. Hunger pressed into every muscle. Your own band gathers, breaths ragged, hands empty, thinking already of what little food remains at camp. But there are other times, rare and precious, when the herd's panic cracks. One animal stumbles, another lags behind, and suddenly, for a moment, the world sharpens to a single purpose. You and the wolves converge, not together, not yet, but alongside, each trusting the other to keep its distance, each knowing that too much closeness means trouble, too much fear means failure. In the wild press of snow and hooves, you see flashes of movement, a wolf darting ahead, teeth bared, cutting off an escape, your own kin flanking from the side, shouts and gestures guiding the flow. It is never clear who tips the balance, who claims the moment. The kill, when it comes, is quick, blood blooming hot and dark on the white, life ending as the sun climbs a little higher. You stand, chest heaving, watching the wolves linger at the edge. They do not challenge, do not charge, only watch, eyes bright, tails low. The old ones say the wolves know when to press, when to wait. Today, you share in the old, reluctant peace. You take what you need, skin and meat and sinew, and when you leave something behind, a bone, a haunch, a promise. The wolves wait for the last human footfall, then descend, silent and efficient, cleaning the rest until only prints and red snow remain. There are days in the deep cold when you almost envy them, their fur, their speed, their ease with the wild. You watch the pups play, tumbling in the snow, learning the rules of the hunt by chasing each other, gnawing on sticks, watching every move of their elders. You wonder what it is to be born into a world without fire, without words, only hunger and the law of teeth and silence. Yet you know, too, the loneliness of the hunt, the long quiet hours spent waiting, the careful calculation of risk, the ache of failure. The wolves know it as you do, and sometimes when the sun sets and the wind picks up, you hear their voices rise, a long, low howl that twists through the darkness, a song of longing and belonging, both warning and invitation. You listen, and in your heart, you answer, though your voice is small and private and made of breath rather than sound. You return to camp, body tired, hands raw, belly hungry. The fire is a welcome relief, the warmth a small miracle. Your band gathers close, sharing the food, passing stories from mouth to mouth as easily as meat and bone. You speak of the hunt, of the wolves, of the way their eyes followed yours, of the moments when the line between rival and partner seemed thin as frost on grass. The old ones remind you that the world is made of watchers and watched, of stories that repeat and change, of rivals who sometimes become something else. You nod. But your mind is restless, circling the memory of those yellow eyes, that shared silence, the chase that was neither victory nor loss, but something in between. At night, as you drift into sleep, you hear them again, closer now, perhaps, or maybe only bolder, their song rising and falling, sometimes met by the answering call of another pack, or by the low, wordless singing of your own kin beside the fire. The world is full of voices, layered and old, each one searching for a place to belong, a way to make the dark a little less lonely. In your dreams you run again, not as human, not as wolf, but as something in between, a shadow slipping through grass and snow, hungry but unafraid, following the herds as the moon rises and the world turns. When dawn comes, you find new tracks at the camp's edge, paw prints and footprints, crossing and recrossing, impossible to untangle, a silent story written in snow and dust. The wolves have been there, watching, waiting, learning as you do. You wonder what they make of you, your fire, your words, your restless need to keep moving. You wonder if, in their own way, they are as curious about you as you are about them. You rise, shake the cold from your bones, and begin again. The hunt continues, the herds move, the wolves follow, and so do you. The line between rivalry and something gentler is never fixed, always shifting, as fluid as the wind that blows across the empty plain. You walk with your band, and somewhere nearby, the wolves walk too, neither friend nor foe, but fellow travelers sharing the path for another day. And as you go, you find yourself glancing back, searching for movement in the grass, for the gleam of eyes in the dawn. You wonder when, if ever, the watchers will become companions, when the distance between firelight and wildness will shrink to nothing at all. But for now you move in parallel, two stories written on the same snow, two hungers driving you onward, two kinds of patience teaching each other how to survive. The days grow shorter. Each dawn is slow and pale, the sun dragging itself above the horizon, reluctant, lingering low in a sky grey with snow and distance. The world feels hushed, waiting. Every sound is sharper, twigs snapping, boots on frost, the creak of leather, the soft sigh of a hungry belly. Hunger is a companion now, patient and persistent. You feel it in your bones, in the careful way the band shares its food, in the way even children watch the scraps, hoping for more. The herds are moving, always moving, further and further, pressed by the cold and the wolves and the restless promise of new grazing somewhere you cannot see. You and your people follow, but so do the wolves. Sometimes, you see them as grey smudges against the white, pacing the horizon, just close enough to watch, just far enough to stay safe. They are hungry too. You can see it in the way their ribs press against their fur, in the alert, greedy gleam of their eyes when you look their way. On a morning when the wind bites deeper than usual, you notice something new. A single wolf, younger than most, edging closer to camp. It circles wide at first, skirting the places where the children play, sniffing the air, watching with bright suspicion. Your band's elders notice, and some grumble, tossing stones or sharp words into the wind. Others simply watch. There is a tension here, but also something softer, curiosity, or perhaps a flicker of respect for the boldness of a creature willing to approach the human fire.
You understand hunger. You know what it is to wait for scraps, to hope for the bone left over, the skin that will not be missed, the bit of gristle too tough for tired teeth. You see it in the wolf's movements, how it measures risk, how it flattens its body to the snow, eyes never leaving your hands as you scrape the last bits of fat from a rib. There is something familiar in this posture, an echo of yourself, or of your people, from times when luck ran thin.
That night, as the fire burns low, you sit outside the shelter, thinking of other winters, other lean seasons, the ways your ancestors survived. The wolf lingers at the edge of the firelight, its eyes catching the red glow. You do not move, and neither does it. For a while there is only the hush of wind, the sigh of embers, and the slow, careful breathing of two creatures too tired for fear.
You break the silence. With a flick of your wrist, you toss a bone, not far, just past the circle of warmth, into the grey between shadow and light. The wolf startles, but does not run. It waits, head low, tail still. Slowly, it moves forward, paws silent on the snow, teeth flashing as it snatches the bone and slips away, vanishing into the dark. You feel a strange satisfaction, not triumph, but a softening, a small act of kindness that costs you nothing but means everything to another.
The next day, the wolf returns. It is not alone. Two more shadows now, older, shyer, hanging back as the younger one approaches. Your band notices, some with suspicion, others with interest. The elders grumble, but you see the calculation in their eyes. Wolves are trouble, yes, but also teachers, also company, also a sign that you are not the only ones adapting, improvising, surviving. You continue to leave scraps, a bit of skin, a cracked bone, the tip of a burnt stick. Each night, the wolves draw a little closer. Each night, you sit longer by the fire, listening to the shifting balance between trust and caution. Sometimes you hear their low, throaty murmurs to each other, the soft whine of a hungry pup, the quick, nervous yip when something moves too quickly in the shadows. These sounds are not so different from those of your own camp, children complaining, elders muttering, mothers soothing restless babies. Hunger breeds boldness, but also curiosity. One evening, you watch as the youngest wolf creeps closer still, drawn by the scent of roasting fat, the quiet voices, the soft clatter of hands working over tools. It pauses at the edge, watching you as you watch it, then darts forward, snatches a scrap, and after only a moment's hesitation, settles a little nearer to the warmth. Your band grows used to the ritual. Some joke about having too many mouths to feed, but they toss bones anyway, sometimes with a quiet blessing or a word meant for luck. The wolves become less a threat, more a part of the nightly rhythm, a presence to watch for, to talk about, to quietly respect. Children whisper stories about wolf spirits. Mothers warn about getting too close, and the hunters start to pay attention to how the wolves track the herds, what they know about the world that you do not. You begin to see the landscape differently. Where once you read only the tracks of prey, now you read the tracks of wolves, where they wait, where they run, where they pause to rest. Their knowledge becomes a map, an overlay on your own experience, another way to survive in a world that offers no guarantees. As the season grinds on, hunger sharpens everything, your vision, your patience, your willingness to risk. One day, a blizzard blows in, sudden and violent. You and your band hunker down, tightening your shelters, sharing what little food remains. Outside, you hear nothing for hours, just the rush of wind and the relentless pounding of snow. When the storm finally passes, you find the youngest wolf curled at the very edge of your shelter, half buried, shivering, too weak to run. You hesitate, then act. You call to the others, and together you coax the creature closer, offering warmth and the last of the bone broth, thick and rich. The wolf drinks, too tired to protest, and for the first time, you feel its trembling body pressed against your leg, its heartbeat wild and uncertain. The elders watch, some shaking their heads, others silent, but no one turns away. The lines between you blur. Just for a moment, hunger outweighing habit, need overwhelming fear. As the wolf recovers, it remains close, moving between your shelters, sometimes even dozing near the children, who giggle at its twitching paws, its awkward, sideways glances. Its presence becomes normal, expected, even welcome. A reminder that all creatures are just trying to survive, just waiting for the world to soften, just hoping for a place by the fire. You dream that night of a world where wolves and people walk side by side, not as rivals, not as strangers, but as companions, each learning from the other, each trusting the other enough to risk a little kindness. When you wake, the wolf is gone, but the snow outside is full of prints, human and animal, crossing and recrossing, telling a story no one will write down, but everyone will remember. The hunger remains, but so does the curiosity. You find yourself watching for the wolves each day, listening for their calls each night, hoping for another chance to bridge the gap between wild and tame, hunger and hope. The cold lingers, but the fire feels warmer now. The darkness is not so lonely. There are watchers at the edge of the world, and for the first time, you wonder if one day they might come to stay. The days are still short, but the cold grows familiar, a presence you wrap yourself in, not a punishment, only a fact of life. The hunger, too, is an old companion, though now there's a little less sharpness to it, a small easing in the band's voice and laughter. The young wolf, once shivering at the edge of the fire, has survived the blizzard, and now moves with surprising boldness around camp. Sometimes it disappears for a day, returning at dusk with snow on its back, a bird's feather caught in its teeth, eyes shining with mischief and curiosity. You notice how everything changes, bit by bit. The band grows accustomed to seeing the wolf weaving between shelters, tail swishing, nose questing after the smell of a stew pot or a scrap dropped by a distracted child. No one is quite sure when fear turned to tolerance, when grumbling about stolen food turned to quiet grins and offhand remarks. He's one of us now, almost. The youngest children whisper names for him, none of them quite sticking, but all offered in that special, careful voice reserved for something not quite wild, not quite kin. The elders, who have seen too many winters to be easily moved, remain watchful. They remember stories of wolves as omens, of spirits who walk in wolf shape, of nights when a pack's howl meant nothing but death. Yet they, too, cannot help but watch the young animal with a mix of caution and something softer. Sometimes you see one of them toss a bone, not just to appease hunger, but as a small, silent gesture, a bridge between what is known and what might become. One evening, as snow falls in fine, steady curtains, you sit outside, the sky overhead the colour of pewter, clouds pressed low against the earth. The campfire crackles, sending sparks spinning upward, lost among the falling flakes. The wolf sits beside you, a respectful distance away, head cocked, ears swivelling at every new sound, the crack of ice, the cry of a distant bird, the muffled laughter from within the shelters. You begin to speak, softly, more to yourself than to him, telling the story of the day, the chase after a reindeer herd, the way the wind shifted and scattered your plans, the lucky catch of a rabbit in a snare. The wolf listens, eyes bright, tail curled around his feet. When you pause, he noses closer, then lies down, sighing, as if he understands every word, as if the rhythm of your voice itself is a kind of warmth. It is here, in the quiet spaces between speech and silence, between gesture and understanding, that something shifts. The wolf stays, no longer only for food, but for presence, for the comfort of shared breath and firelight. You realize he has chosen not to run, not to bare his teeth, not to disappear into the woods as his ancestors did. He is not tamed, no, not yet, perhaps not ever fully, but he is here, and you are here, and that is enough. This is the ancient gamble, trust. It cost both sides something. For you it is the risk of loss, of harm, of betrayal. For him, it is the leap into the unknown, away from the certainty of the wild, and into the uncertain embrace of the fire. But trust is built in moments like these. A scrap of meat shared, a hand held still, a long silence spent side by side, as the wind rattles the world outside. Over time, others notice. The children grow bolder, daring to toss bits of food, then to reach out a tentative hand. The wolf, wary but patient, sniffs and turns, sometimes accepting a touch, sometimes slipping away, never quite predictable, never quite gone. The older hunters begin to watch his movements, curious about what he sees that they do not, where he lifts his nose, how he freezes when danger stirs, how he circles back to check the wind, even when all seems calm. Your band adapts to his presence. The camp's layout shifts subtly, food scraps gathered in one place for easier cleaning, and incidentally for easier gifting. Nightly routines change, fires are fed longer, bones saved a little more carefully, words spoken with an ear to the dark, aware that a new set of eyes now shares your watch. The wolf is not the only one learning. You find yourself studying his posture, his glances, the low growl or the sudden prick of ears when something moves at the forest edge. You learn to trust his instincts, sometimes more than your own. When he stiffens, you stiffen. When he relaxes, you breathe easier. The boundaries between your world and his become less clear, more a line of shadow than of stone. On nights when the moon is full, you hear the distant chorus of his kin, a long rolling call that lifts the hair on your arms, a song as old as snow and fire. He listens too, head tipped, eyes distant. Sometimes he answers, a low whine, a soft yip, as if torn between the world he left and the world he is entering. You understand the feeling. You too belong to two places now, one foot in the safety of camp, one in the uncertainty of the wild. As the weeks pass, you begin to see signs that he is not alone. Other wolves appear, lingering farther out, their eyes bright in the moonlight, their movements cautious but curious. Your wolf, the one who has chosen to stay, greets them sometimes, running out to meet them, returning with new scents, new stories written in the tilt of his ears and the wag of his tail. He does not leave, though, not for long. The fire draws him back, again and again, each time with a little less hesitation, a little more trust. You start to notice changes in yourself too. Your fear of the night softens, replaced by a growing awareness that you are watched over, not just by your kin, but by something older and wilder. The wolf's watchfulness is infectious. You become more attuned to the world beyond your circle of light. You listen for danger, yes, but also for the small, quiet moments of peace. A bird's call at dawn, the rustle of a mouse in the grass, the steady breathing of your band in sleep. One afternoon, as the snow finally begins to melt, you find the wolf sleeping in the sun beside the camp, paws twitching, lost in some dream. The children tiptoe past, giggling, and he only flicks an ear, too comfortable to care. You sit beside him, feeling the warmth seep through the ground, and marvel at the unlikely nearness of it all. The world is vast and wild, but here, for a moment, you are safe together. In the quiet that follows, you think about all that has changed, all that might change still. You wonder how many other bands, on how many other icy plains, have watched wolves approach and chosen, as you have, to wait, to trust, to see what happens if no one runs away. As the sun sets and the shadows grow long, the wolf rises, shakes himself, and comes to sit beside you. He leans against your leg, just a little, as if to remind you that trust is a thing built slowly, through shared winters and shared silences, through choices not to run. You lean back, grateful, and let the night settle around you, the firelight warm on your face, the wolf's presence warm at your side, and the future whatever it brings, just a little less lonely than before. Night falls softly, quietly, the world hushed and shimmering, the air around your camp cold enough that each breath rises, silver, and disappears. The wind moves through the bones of the grasslands, singing in a tongue older than fire, older than memory. The fire at your center flickers, bright but not brave. Its light is modest, meant for warmth and for hope, not for warding off the night entire. This is the hour when stories are told, or when silence becomes a story itself. You gather with your band, shoulders close, a ring of fur-wrapped bodies hunched against the dark. The children, half asleep, curl in the laps of their mothers, and the old ones watch the flames, eyes bright and distant, thinking of winters deeper than this, of ancestors long gone. At the edge of the firelight, the wolf lingers. Not as close as the youngest children, but not so far as the wild. He hovers in the space between guest and ghost, never demanding, always present. His breath clouds the air, his eyes flicker, catching and throwing the fire's glow like twin amber coins. On this night, after a meal, leaner than some but richer than others, you watch as a few bones are left over, dropped at the perimeter without ceremony. Perhaps it is forgetfulness, or maybe a new habit forming, a casual gift to the one who does not quite belong. You notice how, without words or glances, others begin to do the same. A scrap here, a rind of sinew there, the tough edge of hide, the end of a marrow-rich femur. It is not planned, not spoken of, but it becomes a pattern. The wolf waits. He has learned that patience yields more than daring. When all are busy, retelling a hunt, nursing a scrape, rocking a fretful baby, he edges forward, silent and light. His head dips, a bone disappears. He slips away, melting into the dark, to chew and crunch and savor in private. Yet he returns, always. Each time, he comes a little sooner, lingers a little longer, tail flicking in the hush, nose catching the scents of kin and cooking, of smoke and milk and old, dried sweat. You realize, in these nights, that you are not just feeding an animal, you are feeding a possibility, a story that is both older than you and being written even now. The first gift is small, the second is easier, the third is almost expected, and so the habit grows. Wolves at the camp's edge, scraps left with intention, a silent exchange, each side learning a little more trust with every offering. The old ones notice. They say little, but you see how they watch, how they measure the wolf's approach, the tilt of his ears, the glint of his teeth when he cracks a bone. Some whisper to the bones as they toss them, words for luck, or safety, or simply the old prayers to keep the peace between wild and home. You do not know if the wolf hears, or if he understands, but the way he waits, the way he never crosses into anger or threat, feels like a kind of answer. The children, too, learn this ritual. They gather scraps as if gathering flowers, arguing softly over whose piece will be chosen, whose offering will draw the wolf's attention. Some days they invent games around the giving, who can place a bone the closest, who can make the wolf wait the longest before taking it, who can spot the first glimmer of his approach in the dusk. Their laughter is a charm against fear, a sign that the world can be reimagined, even if only at the campfire's edge. Not every night is gentle. Sometimes a bone tossed too close brings a low growl, a warning, a line not to be crossed, a rule that must be respected. Sometimes, when another pack passes near, the wolf disappears for days, the children sulking, the band nervous, the old ones lighting extra fires for luck. But always, the wolf returns. Always, the habit continues. You see, too, how the wolf is changing. His coat grows thicker, cleaner, less matted than his wild kin. He moves with confidence, sometimes lying at the far side of the camp to watch the shadows, sometimes joining the band for a time before drifting away. There is a rhythm to his days, circling at dawn, sleeping at noon, joining the hunt in the dusk. You learn his signals, the twitch of his tail, the arch of his back, the subtle shift in his gaze when something is wrong in the night. The band changes with him. No longer do you feel quite so alone at the center of your little world. There is another presence, another watcher, a guard at the edge of your dreams. The wolf's howl, when it comes, is no longer just a warning to rivals or a song for the moon. It is a thread that binds your story to his, weaving fear into hope, suspicion into a kind of peace. One night, as the wind howls and the fire burns low, you see the wolf bring his own gift, a scrap of fur, a piece of bone, dropped near the camp's edge before he disappears again into the dark. You find it, in the morning, curious and a little moved. Is it an offering, a challenge, or simply the pattern of a new bond, growing in the spaces between need and trust? The elders say the world is full of signs, that you must read what is given and what is taken, that every act of giving changes both the giver and the receiver. You believe them. The wolf's presence shapes you as much as your gifts shape him. You learn to look out, not just in to imagine the hunger and hope of another, not just your own. Each gift left in the night is a thread, weaving you together across the chasm of fear. The seasons turn. The snow begins to melt, and the world softens at the edges. Grass pushes through the old drifts. Birds return with their bright, urgent songs. The herds drift north in search of new grazing. Your band prepares to move, packing furs and tools, shaping new plans for the uncertain road ahead. The wolf moves with you, not at your side, not quite as one of the band, but never far, always at the margin, a flicker in the dusk, a shadow on the ridge, a presence felt more than seen. When you set up camp again, he is there by the second night, waiting for the fire to settle, the laughter to soften, the scraps to be left. The ritual resumes as if it never paused, as if the journey itself is only another chapter in the story you are writing together. In the quietest hours, when you lie awake listening to the slow breathing of kin and the crackle of embers, you wonder what your ancestors would say. Would they see danger, foolishness, or the beginnings of something miraculous? Would they have left gifts for the wolves, hoping for protection, for luck, for a gentler world? You do not know. But as you drift towards sleep, you remember the wolf's eyes, curious, cautious, patient, and you are comforted. The fire is warmer now. The dark feels less complete. There is a gift in every night, and you are learning, slowly, how to accept it. And in the morning, when you wake to find the bones gone, the wolf gone, and only paw prints left in the mud, you know you are being watched over. The habit of kindness is its own reward, its own protection, a promise quietly kept on both sides of the fire. The land changes as you move. Spring softens the ground, rivers swell with melting ice, and the wind carries the scent of distant grass and distant animals. Your band follows these changes, reading the world in every new detail, bud and blossom, track and shadow, the patterns of the clouds and the sudden hush when a predator is near. The wolf moves with you. Sometimes he travels at a distance, visible only as a streak of grey through young willows. Sometimes he is closer, trotting along the ridge, ears pricked, nose twitching in the breeze, marking every scent and sound as if mapping the world itself. His loyalty is a quiet thing, not asked for, never demanded, simply offered in the shape of his days. You are learning each other's ways. At first the learning is clumsy, full of hesitation and wary glances, but over time it becomes a kind of silent dance. You watch how the wolf rises with the dawn, circling camp, checking each shelter, nose pressed to footprints left in the soft earth. He lingers where the scent is unfamiliar, where the grass is pressed flat, where the birds scatter in sudden silence. You start to follow his gaze, to trust his attention more than your own. When the wolf stiffens, you stiffen too. When he relaxes, you find your own breath slowing, the tension in your shoulders ebbing away. He is watching you too. At first you think it's just hunger, just the calculation of risk and reward, but you notice how his gaze lingers on your hands, when you carve a tool, when you throw a spear, when you light the fire. His ears twitch at the rise and fall of voices, at the way laughter signals safety, at the hush that comes with fear. He learns the meaning of your gestures. A hand raised means wait, a low whistle means come, a clap means danger, go run. Children play at the edge of camp, watched by mothers and by the wolf. At first, the little ones are shy, keeping distance, imitating the adult's careful posture. But curiosity wins out. They toss scraps, they mimic his howl, they crawl in the dirt, giggling as he circles closer, head low, tail wagging, just enough to invite without frightening. In these small games, boundaries blur. The wolf's playbow becomes a signal for fun, not threat. A nudge of the nose means again, a quick leap away means catch me if you can. Soon laughter and yips echo together, human and wolf voices, woven into a new kind of song. You begin to notice changes in the way the band talks. Where once wolves were only rivals, only shadows in the night, now there is a tenderness in the words chosen. Someone jokes that the wolf is smarter than the elders, that he reads the wind better than any hunter. Someone else claims he brings luck, that his presence keeps the dark things away. These are not the old words of fear, but new words of welcome, of wonder, of something rare growing in the soil of habit and hope. In the evenings, when the work is done and the sky deepens from gold to blue, you sit with the wolf at your side, tracing the line of trees against the sky. You speak quietly, sometimes to him, sometimes to yourself, telling the story of your day, the chase after a startled deer, the unexpected richness of wild honey found in a hollow tree, the way the sun caught the river and turned it to flame. The wolf listens. You see his ears tilt, see his eyes flicker with recognition at the familiar words, the familiar patterns. He may not understand everything, but he understands enough. The rhythms of your voice, the pauses between sentences, the quiet when a name is spoken, all these are a new language you are inventing together. He responds in his own tongue, sometimes a whine, soft and questioning, sometimes a bark, sharp with warning or with joy, sometimes just a steady gaze, the slow rise and fall of his chest, a presence that needs no translation. You come to cherish these conversations, wordless, patient, as honest as hunger, as simple as warmth. You watch him learn from the band. When you gather to eat, he sits at the edge, waiting, not begging. When you move camp, he trots at the flank, alert to danger, nosing at bundles and packs, as if counting every head. When a child wanders too far, it is the wolf who finds them first, guiding them back with gentle nudges, a shepherd born of wildness but tempered by care. At night he curls near the fire, not always close, but never truly away. Sometimes you see him in your dreams, his form shifting, sometimes wolf, sometimes shadow, sometimes a member of the band who speaks in a voice like the wind through pine needles. You wake comforted, unsure if you have dreamed the future or simply the deep, slow unfolding of trust. The seasons pass. The wolf's fur thickens and thins, his body grows strong and sleek. He changes, and you change with him. You are less afraid now, not just of him, but of the world itself. You feel braver in the forest, more alert to danger, more aware of the patterns beneath the surface of things. The old ones say it is good to have another set of eyes. The hunters say, the wolf sees what you miss. The mothers say the children sleep deeper, knowing there is another guardian in the dark. And still, the learning deepens. You begin to imitate the wolf, just as he imitates you. When you hunt, you move lower, quieter, watching for the small signals, an ear turned, a nose twitching, a tail stilled. You learn to freeze at a sound, to wait for the wind to shift, to move as a group, but always with one eye on the watcher at your side. The wolf, for his part, begins to pick up the rhythm of the hunt, the moment when all tension gathers, when the signal is given and the chase begins. He runs with you, not always in the lead, not always following, but as if you are learning to become a single, many-bodied creature. Sometimes, after a successful hunt, when meat is plentiful and spirits high, you see the wolf eat beside the band, not at the same circle, but close enough that there is no more fear, no more suspicion, only the shared joy of plenty. On those nights the howls that rise are answered by laughter, by song, by the gentle lull of voices drifting into sleep. You realize in these moments that you are making a new story, a story of learning, of watching and being watched, of boundaries crossed and new bonds formed. The wolf is not a pet, not yet a partner, but something entirely new, a companion at the edge of wildness, a mirror in which you see your own longing for connection, your own hunger for something more than mere survival. When the world grows dark and the fire dies down, you look into the wolf's eyes and see not just the wild, but the first flicker of something gentler, a future where trust is possible, where language is more than words, where you are not alone, even at the edge of the unknown. And as you drift towards sleep, the wolf at your feet, the band breathing quietly all around, you listen to the night. In the distance, wolves howl, and the wind answers. You feel the learning, slow and patient, winding through the darkness, knitting your stories together one breath at a time. The days lengthen and the sun grows stronger, the land shrugging off the last weight of winter. As green returns to the world, you notice a difference in the camp. There is a lightness among your people, a new rhythm shaped by laughter and the easy presence of the wolf, who is now, in many small ways, becoming a fixture at your side. It is subtle at first, an extra measure of calm, when he sits watchful on the outskirts, or the way a child slips by him without fear, pausing only to murmur a greeting, or toss a bit of fat from a meal. The wolf, once an outsider, is now part of the pattern. Not quite kin, not yet, but more than shadow. The children invent games that draw him in, running circles in the grass while he chases with a speed and patience no human can match. Sometimes, 2 or 3 pups from a distant pack join him at the edge of camp, cautious at first, then curious, their play drawing the children into a swirl of yips and laughter. There is a wordless truce in these games, a shared delight that blurs the difference between wild and home. You sit and watch, sometimes with the old ones, sometimes alone, letting the sun warm your skin as you study the dance between young wolves and young humans. They are not so different, both delight in the newness of the world, both eager for the chase, for the thrill of the leap, for the comfort of returning to a place where food and warmth await. You hear their voices, the laughter of your people, the sharp calls of the pups, the low rolling growl that signals play, not anger. And you wonder if this is how every friendship begins, with a game, with a moment of trust, with a line that need not be drawn. The elders watch with a mix of pride and weariness. They remember old wounds, old fears, nights when wolves circled camps with hunger and malice. But they also see the change in the band, how the children sleep more deeply, how the women sing while they work, how the hunters return with stories of the wolf's guidance on the trail. Even the old ones admit that there is something special in this new companionship, something the world has not seen before. The wolf learns the rhythm of your life. He rises early, stretching beside the fire as the camp stirs to life, then circles the shelters, sniffing for danger, sometimes nosing a child awake with a cold, wet touch. At meals, he sits quietly, waiting, never begging, content to be offered what is left after the band has eaten its fill. You notice how the children imitate his patience, waiting their turn, learning to give as well as to take. The wolf's presence becomes a lesson, a quiet teacher in the language of sharing. As the band prepares to move, following the herds as they sweep northward with the spring, the wolf follows too, sometimes close, sometimes at a distance, but always there, always watching. The journey is easier with him. He finds safe paths through thicket and marsh, warns of danger long before you can see it, and in the quiet hours before dawn, curls near the fire to share his warmth with those who need it most. There are moments when the line between wild and home blurs completely. One dusk, as the camp settles, the wolf brings a rabbit, freshly killed, dropping it near the fire with a gentle wag of his tail. The children gasp, the elders nod, and you kneel to accept the gift, breaking it open and sharing the meat with the band. It is a small miracle, this exchange, a sign that something ancient is changing, that the world is making room for a new kind of bond. The other wolves, too, grow bolder. On some nights their shadows slip between the trees, close enough to watch, close enough to see the scraps and bones left out, but never close enough to threaten. The old wolf, your wolf, keeps his place, his loyalty divided, but his presence unshaken. When danger comes, a wildcat stalking the camp, a rival pack howling in the distance, it is your wolf who sounds the alarm, who stands between the band and the dark, his growl as fierce as any spear. You begin to trust his instincts more than your own. When he stiffens at a scent, you listen. When he circles a patch of ground, you know to tread carefully. When he relaxes by the fire, you know the night will be quiet. The bond is not one of ownership or command, but of mutual respect, mutual need. The world is still wild, but in this small space, your camp, your fire, your circle, there is a new kind of peace. As the seasons turn, so do the stories. The elders speak of the wolf with reverence now, weaving his image into the tales told around the fire. They tell of ancient hunters guided by wolf spirits, of ancestors who watched the stars with a wolf at their side, of the first time a child and a pup fell asleep together beneath the same hide. The children listen, eyes wide, hearts open, dreaming of a future where wolves and humans walk together, not just for survival, but for joy. There are moments of tension, of course. Not every wolf who approaches is friendly. Not every member of the band is ready to trust. There are fights over food, moments of fear when a growl sounds too close, too sharp, but each time, the old wolf intervenes, placing himself between the band and the threat, reminding all that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the promise to return, again and again, to the work of understanding. One night, as the moon rises full and bright, you see something extraordinary. The children and wolf pups, curled together at the edge of camp, asleep in a tangled heap, their dreams mingling in the hush. You watch, breath held, as the old ones come to stand beside you, silent witnesses to this quiet revolution. In that moment, you realize that something ancient has shifted. The future is being born here, in the small, gentle acts of play and trust, in the laughter shared across the boundary of species, in the courage to open your circle to the wild. The world beyond the fire is still vast and dangerous. The cold will return, the hunger will press in, the shadows will lengthen as the sun slides lower on the horizon. But for now, you are content to rest in this new peace, to watch the children and the wolves sleep, to let your guard fall for a little while. You close your eyes, letting the sounds of the night wash over you, the soft snuffling of pups, the distant cry of a heron, the steady breathing of those you love. And you know, as you drift towards sleep, that you are witnessing the birth of something rare, a companionship that will endure, that will shape the future, that will linger in story and memory, long after the fire burns down. The wolf is no longer just a shadow at the edge of camp. He is becoming a companion, a guardian, a friend, and as dawn touches the sky with the first pale light, you wake to find him still there, watching over you, watching over all. The season turns. The grass is tall and bright, new shoots tangling with the old, and the first wildflowers scatter their colour along the banks where your people walk. The air is sweet with growing things and the hint of rain, and the world feels, if only for a little while, gentle and forgiving. It is in this moment, when the land is most generous, that a new threshold is crossed, quietly, as if the earth itself has given its blessing. You are gathering water when you see her. A wolf, smaller than your companion, coat patchy and eyes dimmed with pain, limping from the trees on 3 good legs. She is not old, but she is worn, ribs too sharp, a wound dark and swollen at her haunch. She pauses, tongue lolling, one ear cocked toward the distant song of the river. Behind her, 2 pups tumble uncertainly, smaller even than the children back at camp, their bellies empty, their legs thin and knobby. You freeze, water sloshing in your hands. Torn between fear and pity, wolves are never more dangerous than when wounded or desperate. Yet the mother's head drops, her tail tucks, and her whole body speaks in the language you have learned to read. Not threat, but hope. The pups whine, confused, pressing close to her side. You see in their faces a reflection of your own, a need too old for words. the kind that might risk anything for the slimmest chance of survival. You call softly, summoning one of the elders, your own wolf trailing at your side, ears pricked, body tense, but curious. The camp gathers, first cautious, then silent, as the injured wolf stands at the edge of your world. She does not cross the line into the fire's warmth, but she does not run, either. It is a kind of negotiation, the ancient gamble that every wild thing must make when faced with the impossible: stay and risk death, leave and face it alone. Your wolf steps forward, posture low, tail wagging, with a careful slowness. He greets her as he once greeted you, nose to nose, a huff of breath, a circle danced in the tall grass. The pups hide behind their mother, peeking out with eyes too large for their faces, tracking every move. You kneel, placing a bone just inside the edge of the firelight, and wait. The mother comes forward, pain slowing her every step. She sniffs the offering, eyes locked on yours, then takes it gently and backs away. The pups follow, gnawing at the scraps, their hunger too strong for hesitation. That night, your people watch the family, voices hushed, hearts tugged by something between wonder and unease. The next day, the wolves remain. The mother rests in the shadow of a boulder, her wound raw but no longer bleeding. The pups grow bolder, sneaking closer to the children, who toss them bits of fat and broken shell, giggling at their clumsy leaps and yelps. Your wolf stands guard, sometimes curling beside the mother, sometimes chasing the pups, teaching them the gentle rules of this new in-between place. A decision is made, not with words but with 1,000 tiny gestures. No one drives the wolves away. No one throws stones. Instead, you gather herbs, heated water, a piece of hide torn from an old cloak. With patience learned from long winters and slow healing, you kneel beside the mother wolf, cleaning her wound, whispering songs as your hands work. She shivers but does not bite, trusting perhaps in your gentleness, or in the watchful presence of her old companion, your wolf, who seems to say with every posture, "These are safe, these are ours." Healing is slow. Each day the mother is stronger, the pups more playful, the space between their world and yours growing smaller. Children and pups sleep beside each other in the tall grass, warm and tangled, while mothers watch from the shade, swapping stories about the strange turn life has taken. The old ones shake their heads, but you see the pride in their eyes, the hope that this act of mercy will ripple forward in ways no one can yet imagine. The wounded wolf accepts your care, but she never lingers too long. Each night, as dusk falls and the stars begin to rise, she edges away from the camp, her pups trailing behind. Sometimes she returns before dawn, sometimes she is gone for days, hunting with her old strength, teaching her young the ways of the world beyond firelight. You notice as the moon waxes and wanes that her pups change more quickly than human children. Their legs lengthen, their voices deepen, their curiosity outpaces even the bravest among your own. They are wild, yes, but wildness tempered by a new understanding of scraps offered, of wounds tended, laughter in gentle hands. Your wolf is their mentor, sometimes their playmate, sometimes their stern teacher. You see him teach them where to sleep, when to run, how to watch the humans without fear, how to wait for the right moment to come close. This closeness brings changes to your band as well. The children who once chased each other through the camp now chase the pups, learning to howl and playbow, to dart and feint, to move with a new kind of grace. Their games become a bridge, a way to share joy and energy that knows no language but the body. Even the elders, those most skeptical of the growing bond, admit that the laughter of children and wolves has a magic all its own. One evening, as the last light fades and the fire's glow flickers on faces and fur, a storm rolls in. Thunder rumbles, rain slashes the earth, and the whole camp huddles together beneath skins and branches. In the chaos, the mother wolf and her pups press close, seeking shelter, trembling but unafraid. You gather them in, wrapping them in old furs, hands gentle, hearts open. For the first time, the barrier between your kind and theirs vanishes completely. Fear forgotten, mistrust washed away in the shared need for warmth, for survival, for the comfort of being together as the world rages outside. When the storm breaks and the sky clears, something fundamental has changed. The wolves remain inside the camp, even in daylight. The pups nap with the children, their breathing in sync. dreams tangled together. The mother wolf, now healing quickly, allows herself to be stroked, even fed by hand, though her eyes never lose their wild glint. Your wolf is transformed as well. No longer just a watcher, he is a leader among both worlds. He teaches the pups to listen for the mother's voices, to avoid the old one's staff, to sleep by the fire when the nights grow cold. He is the bridge, the translator, the quiet reassurance that this new bond is safe, that it will hold. The elders gather one evening to talk. They debate, they worry, they remember stories of trouble and betrayal. But the evidence is before them. Children safer, food more plentiful, the camp watched over by eyes that miss nothing. In the end, they agree, tentatively, hopefully to let the wolves stay, to see what comes of this new arrangement. You watch as the days slip by, as the boundaries between wild and home dissolve, as the wolves become less guests, more kin. You marvel at the speed with which trust can grow, at the healing that comes from shared shelter, at the way a single act of mercy can change the course of many lives. At night, as you lie beside the fire, you listen to the sounds of both worlds, the soft sigh of a child, the contented yawn of a pup, the quiet breathing of the mother wolf, healed and whole, nestled close to those who once might have been her greatest threat. You let your eyes close, heart full, body tired, soul lighter than it has been in many seasons. And you think, as you drift towards sleep, that the line between wildness and kinship is thinner than anyone could have guessed, that every wound tended, every pup sheltered, every night spent together beneath the storm-washed sky is another step toward something new and wondrous. This is how it happens. You realize, not in leaps, but in quiet acts of trust, in mercy offered and accepted, in a world remade by the courage to care for what is not yet your own. Morning light settles soft over the camp, the world washed in pale gold, and the air alive with new possibility. The river mists curl among the reeds. Birds startle the surface, sending ripples across the quiet water. All around, the land is waking, not just grass and leaf and bird, but something in the pattern of your days, something in the very shape of belonging. You hear them before you see them, a chorus of small yips and the slap of eager paws on packed earth. The wolf pups, born only a season ago at the forest's edge, now roam freely through camp, chasing each other, chasing the children, chasing the sunlight as it spills from tent to tent. The old mother lingers nearby, still wary, but no longer hiding. Her wound is a memory now, a scar barely visible beneath new fur. She lies in the grass, eyes half closed, content to let her young wander, trusting them to the strange new world that has opened around the human fire. You wake slowly, aware of the difference, a peace, a comfort, a hush, not of tension, but of fulfillment. For the first time, there are wolf pups born within reach of your warmth, raised with the sound of your voices, the rhythm of your days, the smell of your hands. You marvel at their boldness, the way they climb onto laps, nuzzle into sleeping children, tumble headlong into the arms of laughter. Some in your band watch this new closeness with awe, some with caution, some with a silent hope that grows with every playful snarl and every tail wag. The elders say, it is a sign, a blessing perhaps, or the start of a new story, one that belongs to both human and wolf. They speak softly of the risk, the thinness of the line between trust and trouble, but they do not send the wolves away. They do not forbid the children's games or the soft offerings of food and kindness. Instead, the band adjusts. The old rules, no animals in the sleeping shelters, no scraps thrown too close, become stories that the children laugh at, stories that belong to another time. The pups sleep curled among furs, their small bodies pressed against warm legs, their dreams filled with the scent of humans, the music of a world lived together. You watch fascinated as the pups learn not just the ways of their own kind, but the rhythms of yours. They wake when you wake, following the morning rituals, the gathering of water, the starting of the fire, the dividing of food. They nap when you nap, sprawled in sunbeams or tucked under arms. They learn to respond to names, to whistles, to the clapping of hands. The youngest children invent 100 new games, hide and seek in the grass, races to the river, tumbling contests that end in piles of laughter and wagging tails. The adults are changing too. Mothers catch themselves scolding a pup and a child in the same breath. then laughing at the confusion. The hunters, once wary, now watch the young wolves run the camp perimeter, noting their quickness, their sharp senses, the way they mark any unfamiliar scent or sound. Your own wolf, older now, wise and patient, takes up a role halfway between guardian and mentor. He breaks up squabbles among the pups with a stern growl, corrects children with a gentle nudge, herds strays back to safety with the calm of one who knows the world is larger than a single camp. At first, the sleeping arrangements are awkward. Some nights, a pup slips away, curling beside a sleeping child. The elders frown, mutter warnings about fleas and wildness, but no one has the heart to enforce old rules. You see, in the soft morning light, a tangle of limbs, child and pup indistinguishable, breathing together, hearts beating in slow, perfect rhythm. As the days pass, the pups become more than guests. They are family now, their mischief and affection woven into the daily round of chores and play. When you travel, they travel, paws padding along the path, eyes bright, tails up. When you rest, they rest, trusting in the shelter of your circle, the promise of your watchfulness. The old mother lingers, always alert, never quite at ease, but each day she allows herself to drift closer, to nap in the shadow of the fire, to accept a scrap or a stroke of the hand. You begin to see changes in the pups themselves. They grow faster, sturdier, their bodies lean and strong, but something gentler lingers in them. A willingness to listen, to wait, to follow where a child leads. They learn not to bite too hard, not to bark too loud, not to steal food from hands. They learn too when to break the rules, when to nudge a child awake before dawn, when to lead a stubborn lamb back to the fold, when to sit quietly at the feet of an old woman spinning tales by the fire. The elders notice. They speak of it with pride. These are no longer wild wolves, but something new. They are not tamed, not fully, but neither are they lost to the old ways. They straddle the world between fur and fire, belonging to both and to neither. You see in their eyes the flicker of wildness, the bright intelligence that reads your face and follows your words. You see too the patience of the dog that will come, the gentleness and loyalty and fierce, unwavering love. There are setbacks. Sometimes a pup forgets and snaps at a child. Sometimes a fight breaks out over food or a favorite sleeping place. Sometimes the old mother startles at a raised voice and leads her young away for a day or more, reminding all that trust, once given, is not permanent. The band learns, slowly, to repair these rifts, to offer apologies and food and quiet, to wait for the wolves to return, to show with action that this bond is worth the work. With every season, the pups grow into themselves, half wolf, half something new. They begin to help in small ways at first, alerting the band to the approach of strangers, chasing birds from stored food, curling close to a crying child, until sleep returns. Their value is felt, not just in safety or skill, but in the quiet comfort they bring, the warmth shared on cold nights, the laughter that lingers after play. You realize, watching the pups and children together, that something old and important has happened. Wolves have been born and grown and learned to live among humans. The fire is no longer a barrier, but a beacon. The camp is no longer just human or wolf, but a place where the two have begun to imagine a life together. And as the band moves on, following the herds, seeking new water, new shelter, the pups travel with you. Sometimes they range ahead, scouting danger. Sometimes they fall behind, distracted by scent or sound, or simple curiosity. But always they return. Always they find their place among the furs and laughter and food and song. On the longest night, as you sit beside the fire, a pup curls at your feet, sighs, and closes its eyes. You feel the heat of its small body, the thump of its heart, the weight of trust as tangible as the stars overhead. You stroke its ears, soft and velvet, and know that you are holding not just a pup, but the future built on the courage to accept, the patience to teach, and the hope that what is wild can one day become kin. The dawn comes quiet and golden, and when you rise, the pup wakes with you, tail thumping, eyes bright, ready for another day. You step into the world together, a little less lonely, a little more whole, carried forward by the dream that began at the fire's edge. The river's song shifts with the season, its waters quickening as snowmelt tumbles down from far-off mountains. Each morning, your camp stirs to the scent of damp earth, The chorus of birds, the gentle chaos of children and pups rising with the sun. The world is alive with language, not just the babble of human voices, but the growing chorus of yips, barks, whistles, and laughter, weaving a tapestry of sound that blurs the old lines between species. You notice it most in the quiet moments. A child calls for a pup using a whistle, and the pup answers, bounding through the grass, tail wagging. An elder claps hands softly, twice, then once, and the older wolf lifts his head, ears twitching, waiting for the next sign. You watch, amazed, as the new generation of wolves seems to understand your moods, your movements, even your silences. The children have invented a new word, a blend of howl and giggle that signals it's time to play. The pups, too, invent signals, a paw pressed to a knee for food, a high-pitched whine for attention, a slow wag of the tail for comfort. Slowly, a new language is taking shape. It is not spoken, not in the way that humans speak. It lives in gesture, in rhythm, in the music of bodies learning to listen to one another. You see it in the way a mother wolf bows her head in greeting to an elder, or the way a child mimics the alert, stiff posture of your old companion when a stranger appears on the trail. You see it in the patience of the old wolf as he sits with a crying child, offering the steady comfort of his presence rather than words. The band, too, is learning. The elders, who once grumbled about wildness, now practice the signals they see in the pups, trying a soft whine when hungry, a low growl when danger feels near, a playful nudge when the mood is light. The hunters invent silent signs for the trail, borrowing the wolf's raised tail, the subtle twitch of ears, the freeze that means wait, the leap that means go. At first, these mimicries are jokes, but soon they become habit, a new grammar for a shared world.
When the band hunts, the wolves are now at your side, no longer just shadows at the periphery. Their bodies read the land as yours do, listening for the crackle of grass, the hush that falls when the wind shifts. You learn their cues. A sudden pause means game is near. A dart to the left means something is hidden in the brush. The pups do not always get it right. They chase squirrels up trees or startle the deer with their eagerness, but the old wolves correct them, and the children laugh and the band moves together as one.
It is not always easy. There are misunderstandings, an accidental nip, a cry mistaken for anger, a game that turns too rough. Some days the old rules reassert themselves, the wolves retreating to the edge of camp, the band tightening its circle, but always the new language brings you back. A gesture, a whistle, a quiet song hummed by the fire, each a bridge, each a promise that trust is worth rebuilding. On quiet evenings you marvel at how much can be said without words. You watch as a child leads a pup away from a cooking pot with a crooked finger and a gentle laugh. You watch as the mother wolf soothes a frightened child with a nuzzle, licking away tears as if the child were one of her own. The elders tell stories of a time when only humans and wolves shared the world. But now they say, the world is wider, room for both, room for more. The wolves too begin to understand your moods. When a storm approaches, you notice the way they huddle close, anxious but trusting. When a feast is planned, they wait patiently, eyes bright, tails sweeping the dirt. When there is loss, a sickness, a death, they are present, lying quietly beside those who mourn, sharing in the sorrow with a gentle weight, a head rested on a knee, a sigh that says, I am here. Children and pups invent rituals. They trade treasures, a bright stone for a feather, a scrap of hide for a bone. They teach each other songs, the children howling at the moon, the pups mimicking the sing-song chatter of the youngest. You listen to their play, realizing that a new culture is forming, one that belongs to neither wolves nor humans alone, but to both together. The elders encourage the band to notice, to remember, to mark these moments. At the evening fire, stories are told of how the old wolf first came to camp, how the wounded mother was healed, how the pups were born within reach of human hands. These tales are repeated, shaped, made new with every telling, until they become origin stories, songs that will outlive this season, this generation, even this world. In time, you notice that the wolves have names, not just the ones given by children, but true names, carried in gesture and voice and gaze. The old wolf answers to a low whistle, the mother to a gentle hum. The pups each have a call, a game, a song. These names are not ownership, but recognition, a way to say you are known, you are welcome. There are challenges still. As the pups grow, they test boundaries, chasing after wild herds, vanishing for days, returning hungry and wild-eyed. The elders worry, will they forget what they have learned? Will they choose the wild over the warmth of the fire? But each time they return, each time they seek out the comfort of the band, the pleasure of a hand on fur, the taste of food shared in the hush of night. The old wolf, now greying around the muzzle, becomes the silent leader of this new world. He teaches pups and children alike, leading hunts, breaking up quarrels, reminding all of the old rules even as he helps shape the new. You watch him carefully, noting how he reads the camp, moving closer to the dying, standing guard over the newborn, curling beside the lonely. In his wisdom, you glimpse the heart of this partnership, a way of living that is not dominance or submission, but companionship, care, and shared survival. One afternoon, as the sun sets pink and gold behind the hills, you find the old wolf and a child sitting side by side on a boulder, watching the world together. The child hums a tune. The wolf thumps his tail. They do not speak, but they do not need to. Everything important is said in the quiet, in the gentle leaning of one body toward another, in the peace that settles when all language is shared. And you realize, as the stars begin to blink into the sky, that a new world is possible, a world where gesture and gaze, trust and patience can build a language stronger than fear, longer lasting than any winter. You lie down with this hope curled inside you, heart steady, breath slowing, the sound of the wolves, your wolves, singing you into sleep. Night falls, slow and blue, with the hush of leaves in the breeze and the last bird calls melting into dusk. The camp settles around the fire, a scatter of furs and bodies, bellies full, eyes heavy. Beyond the warm glow, the world thickens into shadow and silence. It is here, in the deep hush, that the wolves truly come alive, not wild now, not quite domestic, but something new, something that belongs to the darkness and to you in equal measure. You watch them as you tend the last flames. The young wolves, now lean and strong, their coats thickening for the coming cold, patrol the edge of camp. Sometimes a pup slips away into the tall grass, only to return a few heartbeats later, nose twitching, ears sharp to the rustle of the world beyond. The old wolf takes his place a little farther out, where firelight cannot reach, his silhouette still and calm beneath the stars. You have come to trust this rhythm, the quiet steps, the circle patrolled, the way the wolves pause to scent the wind before slipping into darkness. Some nights, danger is only a memory. Others, you see the signs, the hackles raised, the low warning growl, the sudden stillness that signals threat. When a shadow crosses too close, a lurking cat, a fox, sometimes even a stranger on two legs, it is the wolves who sound the alarm. Their warnings are many-voiced. A sharp bark calls the band to arms, a long rising howl rouses the elders, a rapid, chuffing chorus wakes the sleeping children. You listen, heart pounding, as the wolves gather between camp and threat, tails stiff, bodies low, teeth bared, not in anger, but in promise. Not tonight, their eyes seem to say, not here. This place is watched, and watched over. The band is quick to answer. The hunters grab spears, the mothers gather children, the elders whisper prayers to the fire, yet more often than not, the threat melts away before a single spear is thrown. The world beyond your circle is full of creatures who know what it means to be watched, who know, too, the meaning of a line not to be crossed. The wolves return, tails high, their voices rolling out in a wild, triumphant song. When peace returns, you watch the camp settle. The wolves walk among you, noses checking faces, paws nosing at furs, a low soothing whine to the children still shivering with fear. The old wolf lies down by the fire, sighing deep, as if to say all is well, for now. You realize night after night that the gift of these companions is not only in hunting or herding, not only in the play and comfort they give. It is in the way they remake the darkness, how their presence changes your sense of what is safe, what is possible. The wild, once an endless threat beyond the reach of firelight, is now a space shared, watched by more than human eyes, guarded by hearts that beat for the pack, not just the band. Children sleep more soundly, their dreams less troubled. Even the elders who have seen the worst that night can bring admit that their rest is deeper, their fears softened by the knowledge that others are watching, others are waking, others are ready to answer the dark. Sometimes in the hours before dawn, you wake and find the old wolf at your side, watching the stars. His ears twitch at the smallest sound, his breath rising in slow clouds. You speak to him softly, telling the story of a long-ago night, of hunger, of fear, of the first time a wolf dared the edge of the fire. He listens, or seems to, his eyes full of the kind of understanding that needs no language, only presence. The younger wolves, restless, drift in and out of sleep, patrolling the camp, playing quiet games of chase among the sleeping bodies, keeping the darkness at bay. You watch them, grateful for their vigilance, grateful for the simple, wordless reassurance they give. The world is not less dangerous, only less lonely. The elders, too, have their rituals. At the changing of the moon, they leave small offerings at the camp's edge, a bit of fat, a carved bone, a wisp of smoke rising as a prayer. These are gestures of respect, of gratitude, of hope that the bond will hold, that the wolves will stay, will watch, will walk with your people through whatever dangers come. The bond grows stronger with every night. When the wolves sound the alarm, you answer without thinking, each person knowing their place, their role, their part in the old dance of fear and safety. You trust the wolves as you trust your kin, perhaps more, for their senses are keener, their attention unflagging, their courage absolute. And the wolves trust you. They curl beside you when the world is quiet, share your food, lick wounds clean, bring back lost children with a nudge and a patient, guiding nose. They greet you in the morning with yawns and tail wags, their affection as honest as the sun rising. As the days shorten and the nights grow long, the camp tightens its circle, drawing together for warmth and safety. The wolves' patrols grow more frequent, their vigilance sharper. When snow falls, blanketing the world in silence, their tracks weave around the camp loops and spirals, proof of their constant, careful watch. You notice, too, the respect they receive from the wild itself. Foxes skirt wide around your camp, herds graze closer, unafraid, sensing the line that is watched by more than one kind of eye. Even the birds seem less anxious, their morning songs brighter, their nests built closer to the shelters. On nights when the moon is full, the wolves gather at the camp's edge and sing, a long, rising, falling chorus that fills the air with memory and longing, with joy and warning, with the promise that the wild and the home are not so far apart. Your band joins them, sometimes with voice, sometimes with drum, sometimes with the simple, steady beat of hands on earth. The sound carries, binding you together, holding the dark at bay. You begin to dream differently. No longer do you fear the shadow at the door, the brush of fur, the gleam of yellow eyes. Your dreams are full of running through snow, of hunting beneath stars, of sleeping safely in the circle of the pack. You wake rested, strong, ready to greet the day. The old wolf, now moving slower, remains the heart of this partnership. He still leads the watch, still breaks up quarrels, still teaches pups and children alike the rules of living together. But now, the younger wolves take more responsibility, dividing the night among themselves, inventing new signals, new ways of keeping the peace. There are losses, as always, a wolf gone missing, a night when a stranger passes too close, a moment of fear that ripples through the camp. Each time you mourn together, wolf and human alike. Each time the bond is rebuilt, stronger for having been tested, more precious for having been nearly lost. You realize, in the quiet between one breath and the next, that your world has changed forever. The darkness is no longer empty. It is alive, watched, filled with the presence of friends, whose loyalty needs no words, whose love is as steady as the stars. And as you lie down to sleep, the fire low, the wolves on watch, you feel peace settle over you. A peace built not on walls or weapons, but on trust, on care, on the promise that someone somewhere is always listening to the night. The world is changing. You feel it in the restless wind, in the press of new grass beneath your feet, in the stories told at night of rivers found, forests crossed, mountains glimpsed in the blue distance. The old lands are behind you now, or sometimes beside you, a memory held in the cool hands that pack and lift and carry, in the songs that rise at dusk, in the small important things, flint tools wrapped in hide, beads passed from mother to child, old fire carried forward as a glowing coal. Your band is moving. You do not move alone. The wolves move with you. Now not just one or two, not just guests or guards, but companions in every sense. The young wolves, grown sleek and clever, run at the head of the column, sniffing the wind, testing the air for danger or for promise. The old mother moves at the rear, checking stragglers, circling back when a child falls behind, her tongue lolling in easy patience. The old wolf, now silver-faced and slower, walks beside the elders, his steps measured, his gaze steady, the quiet confidence of one who has travelled many seasons. There is a new rhythm to the journey, where once you moved in a tight, wary group, spears up, eyes scanning for threat. Now you spread across the land, letting the wolves scout and lead, trusting in their senses as much as your own. They find the best trails, the shallowest fords, the sheltered hollows where wind cannot bite so fiercely. Sometimes they vanish into the brush, gone for hours, only to reappear at dusk with the news of a herd nearby, or the scent of strangers on the wind, or a warning carried in the stillness of their step. The children and pups roam ahead, turning every stream into an adventure, every fallen tree into a game. They invent contests of speed and cleverness, teaching each other how to leap a ditch or stalk a bird, how to hide and then burst into delighted laughter or yipping chase. The adults watch, half amused, half nervous. But every evening the pack gathers at the fire, whole and unharmed, the stories of the day spilling out in a mixture of words and whines, of gesture and grin. Travel is not easy. The land is full of unknowns, wide rivers swollen with meltwater, forests tangled with thorns, sudden storms that flatten the grass and soak your bones. You are tired more often than not. Sometimes the band is hungry, waiting for the next hunt, the next good luck, the next sign from the wolves that something worth chasing is close at hand. But you endure, you adapt, you learn, and always the wolves are there, helping to track a herd through tall grass, digging out water where the ground seems dry, curling beside you when the cold returns. The partnership deepens with every mile. Hunters learn to read the wolves as easily as they read the sky. A single glance, a flick of an ear, a pause with one paw raised, all signal meaning now. The wolves in turn learn the rhythms of the band, the way the cooks gather firewood, the secret signals that mark the start of a hunt, the way voices lower when a new camp is chosen, and the mood turns careful and watchful. The old ways are still honored. When the band stops for a while, near a lake, in the shadow of a forest, by the bones of an old camp, the elders mark the place with stones or carved sticks. They tell the wolves to sit, to wait, to listen to the stories of those who have passed before. Sometimes the wolves lie quietly, their ears flicking, their eyes half closed as if remembering their own kind, their own journeys across the wild lands. There are new challenges too. As you move into lands unknown, you meet other bands, some friendly, some wary, some openly hostile. The wolves are the first to notice, their bodies tensing, their hackles rising, a warning passed down the line, like a ripple of wind. Sometimes the sight of your wolves, sitting calmly at your side, tails wagging, eyes bright, turns suspicion into curiosity, fear into cautious welcome. Other times, it brings only more wariness, more distance, more careful circling before peace can be made. You find that the wolves are not just hunters or guards, but diplomats too, messengers in a language older than words. When two bands meet, it is often the children and pups who bridge the gap first, inventing games, trading treasures, chasing each other through grass and laughter. The adults watch tense at first, but soon enough, someone offers food, someone starts a song, and the circle of the camp widens for another night. The journey leaves its mark. Your feet are tougher, your muscles leaner, your patience longer. The wolves, too, change, becoming less wild in some ways, more attuned to your needs and moods, more willing to wait, to watch, to trust. At night, when the camp is quiet, you see them sleeping among you, not just at the edge, but within the circle, heads resting on packs, bodies pressed close for warmth. You wake in the morning to the wet nose of a pup, the weight of a furry body across your legs, the gentle sigh of an old wolf rising with the dawn. Some days the road is hard. The children grow tired. The elders fret. Food is scarce, or rain soaks everything, making tempers short and sleep uneasy. On these days it is the wolves who remind you to carry on. Their energy is tireless, their affection undimmed. They bring joy in the small things. A game of chase, a rabbit flushed from the grass, a moment of silliness that makes even the wariest elder laugh. In the evenings, when the fire is built and food is passed hand to hand, the band and the wolves gather together. You tell stories of the journey, the river crossed, the herd hunted, the narrow escape from a falling branch, or a sudden flood. The children add their own tales, embroidered with wildness and wonder, the wolves' antics always at the heart of the best adventures. The old ones listen, eyes bright, pleased to see that the story of the band has become the story of the pack, and vice versa. As you cross into new lands, over ridges, through forests, across wide, endless plains, you realize that this partnership is changing more than just your journey. It is changing your sense of what is possible. The band is not just a group of humans, but a gathering of companions, each with gifts to offer, each with wisdom to share. The wolves teach you patience, presence, the courage to watch and wait. You teach them words, gestures, the slow, joyful building of a home. You notice, as the weeks turn to months, that you miss the wolves when they are gone. On the rare days when a hunt takes them far afield, or when a pup wanders off chasing a bird or a scent, the camp feels emptier, quieter, less alive. Their return is always a celebration, marked by shouts and laughter, by treats and games and 100 questions about what they have seen, where they have gone, who they have become. On the longest nights, as the fire burns low and the stars wheel overhead, you lie awake, listening to the sound of your band breathing, of the wolves shifting in sleep. You think of the old world, the world before wolves became companions, before every journey was shared, before every fire was watched by more than human eyes. You feel a quiet gratitude, a sense that you are part of something larger, something ancient and new all at once. You know now that wherever you go, whatever lands you cross, you will not travel alone. The wolves are with you, scouts, guardians, companions, friends. The road is long, the world is wide, but you are not afraid. You are watched over, you are home, even when the home is only a circle of fire in the wild. And as you drift into sleep, the wolves curled close, you let the promise of the journey carry you onward into new lands, new stories, new dreams, waiting just beyond the horizon. The land ahead is wide and bright, open plains rolling toward the horizon, dappled with shadow and sun, dotted with the flicker of antelope, bison and deer. There is a sense of arrival, though you know that the journey is never truly over. Your band has travelled far, always with the wolves at your side, learning the slow lessons of the world, that hunger and hope are close companions, that every new place is both promise and test. It is hunting season. The herds have returned, fat and quick, grazing in the valleys where water runs and grass grows thick. The wolves sense the change before you do. You watch their bodies, tense, alert, almost humming with anticipation. Their noses lift, catching scents on the wind. Their eyes shine with purpose, every muscle tuned for the chase. The hunters gather at dawn, their spears sharp, their spirits sharpened too. The old wolf stands among them, his presence taken for granted now, a leader as much as any elder, the silent judge of the day's prospects. The young wolves run circles at the edge, playful, eager, but learning. The band's children, a little older now, beg to join, their feet restless, their laughter rising with the morning mist. You set out together. The world is quiet, but alive, each step crackling with the old energy of hunger and promise. You walk in silence, the group spread wide, eyes scanning the grass for movement, ears tuned for the snap of twig or the distant drumming of hooves. The wolves fan out, their bodies low, working the edges of the herd, reading the invisible language of panic and calm. There is no rivalry here now, only partnership. You watch the wolves, how they communicate with glances and posture, how they signal with a twitch of the tail or a low, throaty growl. The old wolf and the band's chief lock eyes, nodding as if to say, "It is time." The chase begins not with a shout, but with a breath, a sudden shared momentum, as wolves and humans surge forward together, the line between species vanishing in the dust. The herds burst into motion, hooves thundering, grass flying. You run, your body remembering the old rhythm, feet pounding earth, arms pumping, lungs burning with cold air. The wolves are faster, slipping through the chaos, turning the herd, singling out the weak or the tired. You work together without words, your shouts guiding the flow, your spears ready, your trust in the wolves absolute. When the kill comes, it is quick. A deer brought down by the combined force of teeth and hands, of planning and instinct. The wolves wait, panting, eyes shining with triumph. But they do not claim the prize. They sit, tails sweeping the dirt, as the band approach. There is respect here, a ceremony as old as the hunt itself. The first cut is shared, a gesture of gratitude for the partnership that made survival possible. The children watch, solemn for a moment, then join the celebration. The meat is divided, some for the band, some for the wolves, some for the fire, some for the long journey ahead. There are songs, laughter, the bright clatter of tools and bones, the sound of many voices woven together. The wolves eat beside you, their hunger honest, their gratitude plain in every glance and nuzzle. The old wolf, his muzzle white now, receives the choicest piece, the elders bowing their heads in recognition. The young wolves chase scraps, their play exuberant, their affection spilling over in licks and happy yelps. The hunters rest, their bodies weary but their spirits full. The old fear of the wild now a memory transformed into something softer, richer, a partnership born of need, sustained by trust. You notice too that the wolves bring more than muscle to the hunt. Their noses find hidden trails, their bodies drive the herd with cunning. Their ears catch the faintest sound of danger. You learn from them, imitating their patience, their readiness to wait for the perfect moment, their willingness to fail and try again. The band grows stronger for this lesson. Each hunt a little more certain, each meal a little more secure. There are days when the hunt fails, when the herds scatter or storms turn the grass to mud, when hunger returns with its old edge. On these days, the wolves stay close, their bodies curled around the children, their presence a reminder that survival is a shared project, that the world is unpredictable but not indifferent. You weather these lean times together, sharing what you have, inventing new games to distract from empty bellies, singing songs of past hunts and future plenty. The wolves become teachers in other ways. The children follow them on quiet afternoons, learning to track by scent, to move silently, to read the moods of the world. They practice the low crouch, the stillness, the sudden leap. The wolves teach with patience. Their games both lesson and joy, their approval given in licks and playbows, their corrections swift but gentle. The old wolf takes a special interest in the youngest children, guiding them with a steady presence, showing them how to sit quietly, how to listen, how to move with the rhythm of the world. You watch, moved by the gentleness of this bond, the way a wild creature can become a guardian, a friend, a source of comfort in a world still full of shadows. The partnership changes you. The band grows braver, more curious, more willing to explore the edges of the map. The wolves lead you to new water, to hidden dens, to places of safety when storms rage. You begin to trust their instincts more than your own, to believe that together you can survive almost anything the world throws your way. The stories told around the fire change too. No longer are wolves just the villains of old tales, the threat lurking at the edge of the circle. Now they are heroes, partners, even ancestors in some stories, spirits who watch over the band, who teach and protect, who lead the lost home. The children add their own embellishments. Wolves who speak, who sing, who laugh, who weep when someone is lost, who celebrate when the hunt is good. On some nights you see the wolves dreaming by the fire, their paws twitching, their bodies relaxed in a way that speaks of absolute trust. You wonder what they dream. Do they see themselves as part of your world now as you have become part of theirs? Do they dream of old forests, of ancient hunts, of the time before fire and song and shelter? Or do they dream of this new partnership, this strange and beautiful weaving of lives? One evening, as dusk settles, you watch a child place a garland of flowers around the neck of a young wolf who sits perfectly still, eyes bright with delight. The camp laughs. The wolf licks the child's face, and for a moment, all fear and difference vanish. There is only joy, only the knowledge that you are building something rare and precious, a friendship that will outlast storms and hunger and the slow, uncertain turning of the world. You lie down that night with the wolves close by, the stars bright overhead, the sound of breathing all around, a lullaby for a world remade by trust. You sleep easily, knowing that the hunt, the journey, the bond you share is strong enough to carry you into whatever future waits beyond the firelight. And when you dream of running together, wolf and human, side by side, the wind in your face, the earth beneath your feet, the joy of the chase and the peace of the circle, the promise that what you have built here will endure. The seasons turn again, leaves fall and return, the grass rises and withers, the river's voice deepens, and then softens to a whisper. The years have a rhythm now, not only measured in the cycles of cold and thaw, but in the stories that accumulate like stones around the fire. Among these stories are new ones, stories of loss and love, of memory and reverence, of dogs and people joined not just by hunger or the chase, but by the quiet rituals of farewell. It is the oldest pup, no longer a pup, but a full-grown companion with a muzzle just beginning to silver, who grows slow and weary as the cold settles in. You see it in the way he walks now, a little behind the others, content to lie by the fire while the younger ones race and tussle at the edge of camp. The children, grown a little taller, a little quieter, are gentle with him, sitting beside him to stroke his ears, offering him the softest morsels, sharing their quiet and their warmth. The band feels his slowing as a hush, a shadow at the edge of laughter. The old wolf who came before him is gone now, remembered in story and in the markings on a smooth stone kept by the elders. The first to trust, the first to stay, the first to teach that the wild can soften into kin. He is a name spoken with tenderness, presence felt in the small habits of camp life. When the old dogs sleep, the children say, the spirits of the first wolves visit in dreams, tails wagging, voices singing the long, low songs of memory. It happens as it must. On a quiet morning, the mist rising from the river, the world holding its breath. The old companion does not rise with the dawn. His body lies curled beside the fire, still and peaceful, his fur warmed by the last embers, his face turned toward the place where the band will gather. The news moves through the camp like a sigh. The youngest are the first to weep, their cries joined by the keening of the other dogs, by the soft, wordless voices of those who know that something precious has ended. The elders gather, the mothers hold their children, even the hunters, faces usually stern, let their sorrow show. The old ways guide your hands, a grave dug in soft earth, lined with pine needles and fresh grass, a ring of stones laid with care. The body is wrapped in a favourite hide, the one the dog claimed as his own, nuzzled and slept upon through 100 cold nights. Around him, the children place treasures, bright feathers, a carved bone, the first smooth stone of spring, a little pouch of honeycomb. The oldest elder sings a song, soft, wavering, the notes drawn from the deep well of memory. It is a song for safe travels, for gratitude, for all the silent hours and loud joys shared between people and the first who chose to stay. You see the dogs gather, the living and the lost, their heads bowed, their eyes bright and wise. They understand. The old mother howls, long and low, a sound that threads through every heart and pulls the band close, a sound of longing and thanks, of grief and the promise that nothing loved is ever truly gone. The grave is covered, the stones set in a circle. Each person takes a turn, pressing a hand to the earth, offering a word, a memory, a hope. The children tell stories of games played, of kindness given, of times when fear was chased away by the steady warmth of a dog's body. The elders add their own, of hunts made safer, of nights watched over, of the moment long ago when the wild first agreed to stay. You realize, as you kneel at the grave, that the band is changed by every loss, just as much as by every new birth. The stories you tell become the stories you are, and now the memory of the dog belongs to everyone, woven into the fabric of the tribe, a thread that will not break. It is not only people who are mourned and remembered now, but these companions, these kin born of wildness, shaped by fire and trust. In the days that follow, you notice how the other dogs linger near the grave, lying quiet, sometimes sleeping there through the night. The children bring new offerings, a scrap of meat, a painted pebble, a twist of grass. The elders leave marks on the stones, scratches and lines that mean love and gratitude, protection and rest. The hunters, before setting out, pause to touch the earth, asking for luck, for safety, for the memory of the old dog to guide their steps. The grieving is shared, the ritual as familiar now as any other part of life. And then, gently, the world moves on. The pups wrestle and play again. The fire burns bright. The band gathers for meals. Laughter returns to the circle. But the place of the old dog remains honored. A small space at the fire, a stone among the many, a song in the heart of every child who learned through love and loss what it means to be kin. You see the change in the way stories are told. Now, when the elders speak of the old wolf, they also speak of the grave, of the gifts left, of the songs sung in thanks and sorrow. The children draw pictures on the walls of the shelters, dogs and people together, paws and hands reaching, tales and laughter spinning through the seasons. They understand, in a way that only the young can, that love does not end, that memory is its own kind of living. Sometimes you find yourself sitting by the grave at dusk, listening to the wind, remembering all the years since the first wolf came near the fire. You recall the fear, the caution, the slow building of trust. You remember the first shared meal, the first game, the first howl that was answered by a child's laugh. You realize how much has changed, that now, when a dog is lost, you do not simply move on, but mark the place, honor the bond, grieve together, and hold close the memory. The dogs seem to sense this too. They lie near you, heads on paws, eyes closed. In their presence is a comfort, an ease that makes the pain a little lighter, the night a little less lonely. You stroke their fur, feeling the thump of their hearts, the slow, steady breathing that says, "Here, now we are together." As the seasons pass, there are other losses, other graves, other stories added to the ring of stones. Each time, the rituals deepen, the songs lengthen, the gratitude grows. The children learn to honor the old, to comfort the grieving, to remember that every life, human or dog, wild or tame, adds something irreplaceable to the world. You know, now that this is part of the bond, to love is to risk loss, to mourn is to honor, to remember is to keep the fire of connection burning even in the longest dark. The band carries its memories forward, stories told, graves tended, love passed from one generation to the next. The dogs, too, carry the memory in their bodies, in the gentleness of their play, in the patience of their watching, in the fierce joy of every greeting at dawn. You rise from the grave as dusk turns to night, a dog at your side, the band gathering around the fire, the circle whole, though changed. The world is made of endings and beginnings, of stories held close and set free, of kin found and lost and found again. You understand now that this bond, with its grief and its joy, its memory and its hope, is what makes you stronger, braver, more human than you were before. And as you drift into sleep, the old dog's spirit curling close, the night humming with remembered songs, you are grateful for the lives shared, for the stories told, for the love that endures, long after the last howl fades into silence. Seasons slide into one another, slow and sure, the years weaving a tapestry of memory through your days. The cold comes and goes, the river freezes and thaws, and the band settles into a new rhythm, a rhythm shaped not only by the wildness outside the fire's reach, but by the warmth and wonder inside. The camp grows larger, more crowded with laughter and voices, with the bustle of daily life. Where once there were only scattered fires and lone wanderers, now there are clusters of shelters, circles of old stones, new faces born to both woman and dog. The children are everywhere, their shouts and songs running like water from one end of the camp to the other. Among them are the pups, not so small anymore, their bodies grown lean and capable, their eyes bright with curiosity and affection. It is hard to say where the band ends and the pack begins, for they are joined now in countless ways: shared play, shared sleep, shared watchfulness. The lines are blurred by habit and love. You see it in the smallest details: a toddler learning to walk, steadying herself with a hand in a pup's ruff, giggling as she teeters and is caught, gently, by a soft muzzle and a furry body pressed close. A mother kneeling at the fire, her infant asleep on her back, her hands working a bundle of hides, while a young dog curls around her legs, guarding, patient, dreaming with one ear cocked for danger. The old men share their food with the oldest dogs, their hands and faces lined with the memory of 1,000 nights spent together under the same sky. The first villages are more than places to sleep. They are home in a way that wandering never was. With settling comes change. You build more shelters, dig pits for storing grain, shape clay into bowls, mark boundaries not with fear but with welcome. The wolves, once your shadows and then your scouts, have become dogs in truth. Living inside the circle, their loyalty a constant, their presence as natural as the smoke rising from the fires at dusk. In these new villages, dogs serve many roles. They are guards, their barks ringing out when strangers approach or when something stirs in the night. They are companions to the lonely, warming the beds of the sick and the old, lying quietly beside those who are weary, their breath steady and sure. They are playmates, joining the children in endless games, inventing new ways to chase, to race, to roll in the dust and laugh away the hours. The elders watch, pleased and a little amazed. They remember the stories of old, of wolves as threats, as omens, as the darkness at the edge of the fire. Now they tell new tales, of dogs who saved a child from a snake, who found the lost, who barked warnings before the flood or the fire. The old wolf is still honored, his grave tended, his name spoken with reverence. But now the stories grow longer, more intricate, full of new names and new adventures. Rituals emerge, shaped by the needs of both people and dogs. In spring, you gather to bless the litters born within the circle, tying bright beads to their collars, smudging their fur with smoke and herbs, singing songs of health and protection. The children make toys, braided ropes, painted bones, carved sticks, and the dogs carry them from house to house, eager for play, eager to belong. The dogs are woven into every celebration. When a child is born, a dog sits beside the mother, sharing her watch, licking the infant's face, offering the old silent promise, "I will guard you, I will stay." When someone dies, the dogs gather with the mourners, howling a low, sorrowful chorus that echoes through the dusk, a reminder that grief is a circle, that love does not end at the grave. When the band gathers to feast, the dogs wait patiently, eyes bright, tails thumping, rewarded with scraps and smiles and the affection of many hands. You notice, as the years pass, that the dogs change with the village. Their coats grow thicker in winter, sleeker in summer. Some are bold and strong, eager for the hunt, their bodies built for speed and strength. Others are gentle, content to sleep at a child's feet, or to follow the old ones as they walk the boundaries of the fields. Litters are born that look nothing like the old wolves, some with soft floppy ears, some with bright mottled fur, some with tails that curl and eyes that seem to hold the whole story of the village inside. The bond deepens with each generation. Children raised with dogs become adults, who cannot imagine life without them. Hunters trust their dogs to find the trail, to flush the prey, to alert the band to the presence of danger. Mothers trust them to guard the children, to fetch help, to share the night when worry keeps sleep away. The elders trust them to remember the old ways, to sit beside them when stories are told, to listen, always, with patience and with love. There are still challenges, still moments of fear and misunderstanding. Sometimes a new dog, unsure of its place, bites or snaps, sending a ripple of worry through the camp. Sometimes a child teases too roughly and is taught by tooth or by bark, the rules of respect. Sometimes a sickness comes, and the village mourns together, grieving for lives cut short, for friends lost too soon. Each time, the rituals of comfort return, stories, songs, gentle hands, the circle drawing tighter, the bond growing deeper in sorrow, as well as in joy. Dogs become symbols in the new world. Painted on the walls of the shelters, their forms curl around the hearth, their faces rendered with care in ochre and ash. The children carve them into the handles of knives, the rims of bowls, the beads worn close to the heart. The band takes pride in its dogs, each with a name, each with a story, each with a place by the fire and in the tale of who you are. As the years stretch on, you see the world with new eyes. The wild is still out there, dangerous, untamed, full of the old tests. But here, inside the circle, you have made something enduring, something soft and strong. The village is a place of invention, of new tools, new songs, new ways of living. And through it all, the dogs remain, adapting with you, growing gentler, more playful, more able to read the moods and needs of your people. Sometimes, on quiet nights, you walk the boundary of the village, a dog at your side. The stars wheel overhead, the fires burn low, and you remember the long journey from wildness to home. You remember the fear, the hunger, the first fragile threads of trust. You marvel at how much has changed, at how simple it feels now, to reach down and stroke a furry head, to be greeted by a wagging tail, to know that you are never truly alone. You are part of something larger now, a living history carried in every story, every game, every soft sigh of sleep. The dogs dream beside you, their legs twitching, their hearts steady, their loyalty a comfort that time cannot wear away. And in your dreams, you see the firelit circle stretch onward through the years, always watched over, always warmed by the breath and presence of friends who crossed the wild and chose to stay. In the morning, as the village wakes, the dogs rise with you, ready for the day, ready for the work, ready for the laughter and the quiet and the journey that never truly ends. Together, you step out into the world, companions in the old dance of survival and hope, living proof that trust can reshape the wild, that love can last longer than fear, that home is something you build, again and again, with every gentle hand, every playful bark, every night spent together beneath the stars. There is a peace that settles over the village in the long blue twilight, the kind of peace that comes not from the absence of danger, but from the living memory of hardship overcome. You sit near the fire, its glow painting the faces of your people in shifting gold, its warmth circling out to where the dogs lie, scattered in twos and threes, their bodies relaxed, their bellies full, their eyes half-lidded with trust. It is easy, in moments like this, to forget the wildness outside the ring of firelight, to let the nearness of dogs and kin lull you into a sense of safety, so deep it feels eternal. The children are quiet now, worn out from games and from long days running with their canine companions. The old ones lean together, voices low, recalling stories of years when the world was colder, harder, and the idea of a dog lying in your arms would have seemed as unlikely as a bird sleeping with the moon. Someone begins a song, soft at first, a lullaby, handed down from the days when your people wandered with only fire and hunger to guide them. The tune is simple, the words old, but the meaning has changed. Where it once spoke of fear, of keeping the dark at bay, now it is about belonging, about the ties that have been knotted and re-knotted through generations, human and dog alike. You look around and see these knots everywhere, a mother sleeping with her child and her dog pressed close on either side, a hunter leaning against a great hound, both of them watching the embers fade, a group of children curled in a pile with their favourite pups, their breaths rising and falling in a shared peaceful rhythm. It is a tapestry, this life, a weaving together of lives and stories, joys and griefs, each thread made stronger by the presence of the other. The dogs have become the soul of the village, as important as water, as constant as fire. They are the first to greet you in the morning, the last to sleep at night, their vigilance never wavering. They know your moods, your habits, your silences. When danger draws near, a stranger's shadow, a sudden cry, a shift in the wind, they are already at the edge of the circle, eyes sharp, bodies poised, their warning barks a call to arms and to unity. But it is not only for danger that you rely on them. The dogs have changed your world in quieter ways, herding the livestock you have begun to keep, guarding the stores of grain from thieves and wild things, digging with you in the fields, carrying messages between distant shelters. They teach the children patience and gentleness. They remind the old ones that play is a kind of wisdom. Their very presence, their willingness to belong, has changed you, made you softer in some ways, braver in others. The elders mark the seasons now by the litters born, by the return of a dog who wandered too far, by the feasts held in honor of a hound who lived long and well. They have woven the memory of wolves and the spirit of dogs into the ceremonies of the village, blessings at birth, songs at coming of age, offerings and stories at every grave. The bond is not just survival, it is ritual, meaning a map of the heart's journey across time. You have watched the dogs themselves change, season by season, year by year, no longer only grey and lean like the wolves who first dared the fire. Now their coats are many colours, brown, gold, black, white, brindled, spotted, each marking a new branch of the family, a new story written in fur and movement. Some are small and quick, expert at keeping rats from the stores. Some are large and strong, guardians of the herd and the night. Some are quiet and watchful, always beside the old or the sick, a comfort made of flesh and warmth. The children know their names as well as their own. Each dog is someone, not something, with a place in the story, a voice in the song. The dogs, in turn, seem to know the names of every child, every elder, every corner of the world that is called home. When a child is lost, it is a dog who finds her. When a storm comes, the dogs gather everyone close, their bodies a living wall against cold and fear. The rituals deepen. When a dog dies, the grief is felt by all. The burial is gentle, filled with tears and thanks. The grave marked with a carved stone, the memory kept in story and in the shared silence that follows. The children bring flowers, painted pebbles, their own small treasures, laying them gently on the grave. The old ones sing, the dogs howl, the village sits together in remembrance. It is never easy, but it is never endured alone. You realize, as you walk the boundary of the village at dusk, that this bond, this great quiet joining of lives, is your inheritance and your gift to the future. You remember the stories told by the fire of the first wolves who watched and waited, who learned the language of trust, who became not rivals, but kin. You remember how long it took to build that bridge, how much patience, how much courage, how many small mercies piled up into a miracle. Now, as you listen to the soft breathing of dogs all around, you know you are living in the world those first storytellers only dreamed of. The partnership is woven so tightly that you cannot imagine the world without it, dogs and people. Together, this is not a chapter, but the heart of the story, the slow and certain transformation of two species into something new. You sit by the fire a while longer, the night cool, the sky bright with stars, the world feeling safe and whole. The last song fades, the children sleep, the dogs dream beside them. You let yourself drift, heart full, eyes soft, breathing slow and deep. This is how the old fears end, not with conquest or surrender, but with belonging. This is how the new world begins, with the promise that what you love will remain, will grow, will shape the days yet to come. Every howl, every laugh, every gentle touch, another thread in the tapestry. Then as you finally lie down to rest, dog at your side, the night gentle, you're grateful for the journey, for the trust, for the bond that endures. The fire is low now, the night stretching deep and blue beyond the edge of your dreams. The dogs have curled in closer, warm against your legs, their breaths long and steady, their hearts drumming a quiet promise that you are never alone. The village is still, each shelter cradling the slow, peaceful sleep of those who have found a home not just in the land, but in each other. Let yourself relax, breath by breath, as the world outside the circle softens into mist and memory. The work is done, the story's told, the circle unbroken. The dogs are watching, always guarding the doorways of dream and dusk, walking with you into the gentlest parts of the night. You do not need to hold the whole journey in your mind. You can let go, knowing that trust and love and warmth are waiting for you wherever you wander. Sleep is easy here, as the old fears dissolve, as the future stretches out like a sun-warmed path. You drift, weightless, in the knowledge that the bond you've built, born of wildness, grown in patience, sealed in song, will carry you forward through every darkness, into every dawn. Rest now. The story is safe, wrapped in the memory of wolf and fire, of hand and paw, of laughter and loss, and love that does not end. Sweet dreams.